has the biggest megaphone, the biggest mega capitalists in his back pocket who will use their megaphones to help repackage his failed presidency. And if we just need to see an opening salvo, Armstrong, let's look at Tom Hanks narrating Obama's re-election documentary while producing Game Change, that fake, trash documentary that really went after Sarah Palin.
Let me stop you. I must stop you. I watched Game Change by accident on Sunday night. I had intended to watch Oprah's special on Whitney Houston's family. And somehow or another, I could not find O's channel. It ended up on, I think it was Showtime HBO, where it's been there. I think it's HBO. Yeah. And I couldn't stop watching. And you know what? I felt so bad for Sarah Palin. But I've got to take issue with you. I do not blame Tom Hanks and the liberals for the trashing of Sarah Palin, because whomever were their sources, they did everything they could to make McCain, with the exception of the profane language and his obsession with Keith Olbermann and MSNBC, to look like a king. They had to find people within McCain's campaign hierarchy who worked with them on the record to trash and dismantle her.
You're absolutely right. Of course, Tom Hanks is not the single person. We know it was Nicole Wallace and Steve Schmidt reportedly.
I was just stunned.
Yeah, no,
Jason?
It was very stunning. But you know what? See, the left is so good, Armstrong, you know this, of using pop culture to get their message across. And I'm afraid that it's going to happen similarly like it happened in 2008. That's why I wanted to write Hollywood Hypocrites, to show that not even Obama's biggest backers live by the same policy prescriptions that Obama tries to inflict on the rest of us.
Let me read from the book, because we really want to focus on the book and not Miss Palin today. Let me just go. I just want to go some of my favorite. I had the bookmark. In the case of Bono's product, RED, the goal has not only to garner greater awareness, but to shift the way people think about consumerism and development aid. In other words, the goal is to make people anti-materialistic by being more materialistic. Makes perfect sense, right? Wrong, say Ritchie and Ponte in their case study of the product, bread age, shopping well to save the world. I mean, it's so true.
Yeah, you have Product Red, which is started by Bono to fund poverty programs specifically in Africa, and it's pretty much when anyone buys an Apple product or jeans from the Gap or a Motorola phone, they'll donate a proceeds over to say the One campaign, and then the One campaign does advocacy work where you have people who are economists in Africa that say, hey, listen, you actually want to help Africans, don't keep funding these celebrity swank charities. What you want to do is help encourage the exchange of goods and services that actually really help buy products that are made by Africans or buy products that are made in better labor conditions. Product Red is just a racket. In fact, the Global Fund, which is also Bono-backed, this is a perfect illustration of unintended consequences by the left. The Global Fund has squandered $26 billion in Western government grants over the years. $26 billion, and it generally just goes to fund warlords and the corruptocrats around the continent of Africa, and does nothing to help the people who are living in squalor.
Ariana Huffington is one scary broad. You refer to as a genius.
As a what?
Genius.
I think she is. She is a very influential progressive, has the most influential progressive media platform. And but what's funny about her, she first started off as a conservative, then she hoodwinked all conservatives and went over to be a leftist, and then she hoodwinked the leftists and turned out to be a mega capitalist who cashed in her Huffington Post site to the tune of $315 million.
Now, she is a capitalist tool, isn't she?
Well, she is. It's interesting, though, with Ariana Huffington, and I had no idea until I dug into the research. She has, for the last 30 years, it's just very weird, been affiliated with this New Age cult out in California behind a guy named John Roger, who says he's actually higher than Jesus Christ. and she's been swearing a loyalty to him for the last 30 years. It's very, very scary. Most people would never know that Ariana Huffington, the biggest progressive voice, is actually part of a New Age cult.
Talk about the hypocrisy of Spike Lee.
Well, Spike, as you know, Armstrong, has never met a slave metaphor that he didn't like to use. This guy has attacked blacks and whites for either black, if they're not being black enough. Ving Rhames, the actor, and Cuba Gooding Jr., he called them both servile. He attacked Whoopi Goldberg and Eddie Murphy because he said their comedy was catering more towards whites. And he attacks Clint Eastwood because he says his movies don't depict blacks. And the movies he picked were Flags from Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. Letters from Iwo Jima was from the Japanese military perspective. There were no blacks there. And he attacks Clint Eastwood for being essentially a racist. But the thing is, we know Spike Lee is, he's off the handle. Barack Obama just recently, a month and a half ago, allowed his staff and himself to have Spike Lee host a star-studded fundraiser for them, $38,000 a plate. And they raked in $1 million in one night. Now, can you imagine if, say, Mitt Romney or Rick Santorum was aligned with someone who, on a regular basis, exudes racial hatred to both blacks and whites?
But now there's a double standard for minorities, especially for minorities in this country. Come on, Jason, where have you been?
I know there's a double standard, but it's always healthy to continue to point this out and highlight it. And it's not as though, at least Spike Lee, I guess his racial hatred has matured over the years. In the early 90s, he was quoted by London's Guardian newspaper as saying, after he got back from South Africa, he wanted to pick up guns and shoot whites. The only way he said, to bring the reconciliation was through bloodshed. This is a man who has a long, long history of crazy, outlandish statements, and the Democrats always posture themselves as the party of civil rights.
I've got to tell you something that you put in your book that I was shocked about. This confrontation between Gassman and Ariana. You remember that in your book?
Which
Lydia Gassman, who was a university
Lydia Gassman, yes, the history professor. Absolutely.
We want to come back to that. Listen, I learned so much. Hey, Jason Mattera, Hollywood Hypocrites, you've got to go out and buy the book. It is a must-read. We'll be back. Don't go away.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Hello, my name is Ron Moulton. I'm running as a Republican for the City Council in the nation's capital, a political arena dominated by the Democratic Party. I'm seeking office in Ward 7, overwhelmed by unemployment and poverty. For the first time in decades, we have an opportunity to be elected as the people that need the representation the most are now responding to the principles that will uplift them. For more information about my values and to donate, please visit www.ronmoulton.com.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
You know, I want to get into briefly with the art historian. We're talking to Jason Mattera, Hollywood Hypocrites. We've got to get into Oliver Stone. And you refer to Cameron Diaz as a pothead, man.
Well,
you are rough.
Dude, Armstrong, but it's by her own admission. She actually goes back, says she started smoking weed and buying it from Snoop Dogg. They both went to the same California public high school together, which says a lot about academia and our public school system overall. But she was a woman who loves to lecture us about what we do with our bodies and how corporations are pumping stacks of smoke into the air and harming us. And then here's a woman who's bragging about smoking weed, saying that's the cool thing to do. And a lot of young people look up to that, especially those who are teenagers.
What about the great, especially in his own mind, Oliver Stone?
Well, Oliver Stone, get this, Armstrong, he has an upcoming documentary that is supposed to put, it's on Showtime, it's supposed to put Hitler, Stalin, and Mao Zedong in their proper context. He thinks that they've all been vilified way too much, and that he's going to have like a fair and balanced analytical look at someone like Hitler. This man, talk about a Hollywood hate monger. He's said on record that the Jews control the media, and that's why there's a fixation on the Holocaust. He's a huge Obama backer. He helped, even in 2008, MoveOn.org cut a commercial supporting Barack Obama. So the Hollywood left can get away with saying the most hateful things, whether it's directed at whites or blacks or Jews, and even lionize dictators who are gone or still alive, and they are not held accountable by the media. That's why it's our job to continue to highlight these issues and make sure people know that the hypocrisy cannot go unnoticed.
Now, I found it amazing that Lydia Gassman, who was a University of Virginia art historian, ended up not getting one penny out of our friend Arianna Huffington.
Yeah, Arianna Huffington has published...
The kleptomaniac, as you refer to as.
Yeah,
Say Glassman.
Intellectual kleptomaniac. Lydia Gassman she died recently, but she was a professor at the University of Virginia. She had on the library file pretty like a dissertation on Picasso. And what Arianna Huffington did is essentially lift the entire dissertation, change a few words and themes here or there, but then published it under her name. But since it was an actual book and just on like a dissertation in the library, it wasn't considered flat out plagiarism. Now, Lydia Gassman wanted about $1 million, she said, because it was her life's work, and then Arianna Huffington just ripped it off. They ended up getting into a legal battle, and Gassman decided not to pursue any formal charges because she didn't have the millions Arianna Huffington had, because she, let's not forget, was married to Michael Huffington, who made millions as an oil baron.
Yes. What about, I just felt in reading this book, you had a real crush on Whoopi Goldberg. Listen to that and blush.
Oh, Whoopi Goldberg. Good old
Whoopi.
Whoopi. Whoopi, it's so sad. I like so many of these people on the big screen.
I can tell.
They are talented people, but they are just hypocrites in their personal lives.
Ted Danson said Whoopi was quite talented.
Yeah, she did. He did in the bedroom. Listen, they dated in the early 90s. Whoopi Goldberg, now, any chance he gets on The View, tries to paint the Tea Party or some Obama critic as being racially motivated. And she's out with it now. She says, I'm playing the race card, because she can't imagine that anyone would oppose Barack Obama other than his skin color. Well, it turns out that Whoopi Goldberg in the 90s was very impervious to racial offense. At the Friars Club, where she was being roasted by her boyfriend Ted Danson, she helped him, hired the makeup artist to dress him up in blackface, get big lips, big white lips on him, and then he just carpet bombed the audience using the N-word and talking sexually explicitly about what he and Whoopi do, using all types of racial stereotypes.
And Mr. Bourne Identity, I love his movies. Mr. Matt Damon.
Man, these are A-listers. Damon, I love his movies. When the Bourne trilogy, when it comes up on TNT, I am there watching it. But it turns out that Mr. Bourne Identity himself fancies his work as like a peace activist. He actually says that he doesn't like guns and is this anti-violence advocate, won't lend his name or his voice to video games because of the violence and what a gun culture does to America. Well, he says that, but then he goes and makes fat coin to the tune his movies, just the Bourne trilogy, about $300 million, and the movies are orgies of violence, which, by the way, I love. But don't go about and tell us how, oh yes, I don't use my name or my voice for video games because they're violent. And then you go about and create the Bourne trilogy. You have The Departed. I mean, we can go down Saving Private Ryan. This man has been in bloodthirsty movies, and he's going to lecture us that violence is ruining America's youth.
Jason Mattera, New York Times bestselling author of Obama Zombies, is our guest. Hollywood Hypocrites. Now you know that I would be remiss if we did not talk about the saint of all saints, St. Baldwin himself, of Alec.
Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin, man.
Father of the year, Alec Baldwin.
Father of the decade.
Here's a guy who rails against the evils of big banks raiding the taxpayers for bailout money, yet he became the pitchman for Capital One, which received $3.6 billion.
Show me the money.
Oh, that's right. Show him. But he liked to drone on and on about how Republicans have an allegiance to corporate profitability. And someone needs to remind him he works for General Electric, which is the same company that paid an effective American tax rate of 0. So as he decries corporate profitability and decries tax cuts for the wealthy, someone should show him who his employer is, and if he's not going to, take one for the team and really stand by what he preaches to the masses, well, then he should just shut his mouth.
Now I must tell you, I met this guy. He's a nice guy. I have a soft spot for Bono.
I'm sure he is. I've met him too. He is a nice guy.
He's a very nice, and he's sincere. He's just misguided, man.
Well, that's fine. I mean,
misguided.
his policies are misguided, but he's also a hypocrite too. We should point that out.
That's what we want you to tell us.
Yeah,
where is he? What is hypocritical about what he does?
Bono in 2006 moved U2 from Ireland to Holland so they can write off nearly all the taxes they would pay on music royalties.
That's just good business.
Well, it is, and I would do the same, but here's the hypocrisy. He goes around lecturing Western governments to pay more and send more into poverty programs that can go to Africa, and recently he said that any politician that would cut foreign aid should be punished. He said cuts will cost lives. Well, the aid comes through the form of taxation, so by him sheltering his money, that means his government, where he's from, cannot take the money extracted through taxation and send it to the poverty programs that he purports to champion.
Now, you know what? I want to tell you this, and I know you didn't get into this in your book. I know you mentioned briefly Clint Eastwood, and I remember the controversy about his Super Bowl ad. I don't see how anywhere in their right mind would ever label Clint Eastwood a liberal.
No, that was unexpected.
I was stunned by that.
Yeah, he's not. He's a self-described libertarian. He said he's no fan of Barack Obama. I believe him.
No. He's more aligned with conservative principles, man.
Yeah, and the fact that he has this American though image. He's Dirty Harry. So I can see why he would do the commercial for Chrysler, because Chrysler is coming back out of bankruptcy, and they want to posture a very, very strong image. I get that. And I don't think he was willingly trying to help Barack Obama. So it's an unexpected help to Barack Obama, but
you
it's
know,
still going to help him.
Since you're talking about our president, who, while we speak, is having some fun at the White House, you tried to take a stab at First Lady Michelle, man. What's wrong with you?
Listen,
she wants us all to get in shape and eat right.
She does. You know, I'm all for getting in shape. I try to go to the gym as much as possible. I try to eat healthy. This week, my book tour, I have not been eating healthy, by the way. But I try to do it. She, though, wants to have body mass index report cards for all students in elementary school. You stick fat kids on scales and you give them a report card on their weight, which is a total invasion of privacy. But here's where the hypocrisy comes in. Michelle Obama wanted to take on healthy eating. What she would do is chastise the Hollywood industry, her big money donors, for allowing product placements in movies. The biggest food product placements are fast foods, salty snacks, fried items, all that stuff we love but is not healthy, and it increases sales dramatically. We know this through advertising research. But instead, she targets us sanctimoniously, rather than the Hollywood crowd that has a much grander impact than we could ever. But you never see her lecturing and spanking her Tinseltown friends for promoting Lay's potato chips or fried foods while she waves her fingers at the rest of us.
You know, I got to say this. We have about a minute left. Man, we miss our friend Andrew Breitbart. I saw the wonderful blurb he has on your book. What a wonderful human being. Just a good guy.
He was. I'm still honestly in shock.
I was in a state of shock.
I saw him a few weeks ago.
Probably at CPAC.
Yeah, I saw him at CPAC, talked to him after that. It's a devastating loss for our movement. But you know what? In about 3 years, he did more to advance the cause of freedom and bring down leftist strongholds than politicians have tried to in the last 40 years.
How can someone go and get your book, man?
Amazon.com. Just type in Hollywood Hypocrites.
Amazon,
or any local bookstore.
So you're in New York. You live in Washington D.C.
I travel between D.C. and New York.
One of these days, we're gonna break some bread. You and I've never met, actually. Have we met?
I think we have. I used to work for the Young Americas Foundation.
Oh, for Young Americans for Freedom.
The Young Americas for Freedom, and we had a radio role. This is years ago.
Well, look, I'm too young to remember that. Jason, all the best with your book. Jason Mattera, Hollywood Hypocrites, man. Thank you for joining us, Jason. All the best.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna talk about some food when we come back. Food with Maureen Abood.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
There, you ready?
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Okay.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
What's wrong?
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Maureen Abood, our culinary expert. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks, Armstrong. It's great to be here.
Oh, and we're live.
All right.
That means people are listening. We got to be on our best behavior.
We better be on our very best behavior. Or not. They might like it if we aren't.
Maureen, tell our audience a little about yourself.
Armstrong, I am a food writer and a cook living in northern Michigan on the tip of lower Michigan, right near the Mackinac Bridge. I write about food, family, and I take a lot of photos of this beautiful area and of food as well. And I publish all of that on my blog, Rosewater and Orange Blossoms, at maureenabood.com.
You know, today we're going to talk about the importance of fasting. You know, everyone knows it's the Lent season, so it's an appropriate time, and because fasting is so important to maintaining your health.
It is, and I'm practicing Lenten fast right now in simple ways, but I am practicing it, and it really helps one to focus on what you're putting in your mouth, quite simply. And I think it's a spiritual practice, but one that translates to improved personal health on so many levels.
So do you think spiritual health, eventual physical health, and fasting can be synonymous?
I think that they're all intertwined.
You know, I have to tell you something. Let me interrupt you a minute before you answer that. You know what? Fasting scares me because I know people who fast, they don't eat all day. They don't eat until the sun goes down in the evening. If your body has not been properly acclimated for that, you can become very ill.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought this up because we are talking about fasting as a spiritual practice in Lent as sort of a side issue. You don't want to, generally speaking, go all day without eating and then eat a big meal in the evening. That's really not how we're gaining our best health. Eating small meals throughout the day is what's been shown to be the best for keeping energy levels up. Fasting is really something we're doing for a short time, certainly as Catholics, but a lot of people are doing it for short periods of time to bring their weight down, to cleanse their body, and to really bring their minds into a place where they're thinking better about what they're eating, and in turn gaining better health. And you tie together the spiritual, the physical, and the emotional. These are all important factors because when we eat too much, very often we're doing that out of stress and anxiety or some subconscious reason that we may not even be in touch with. And that's what leads to becoming overweight. Or the opposite, if we're not eating enough because we're trying to control our lives in some other way by restricting our food too much, it's also a bad effect on our health.
What is the proper process would you recommend for somebody who wants to fast? And are you saying that is a good way for people not only to lose weight but maintain the loss?
Not necessarily. I think that it's been shown that if we eat less, we're going to be healthier because we Americans eat too much. We eat too much. We're overweight. I mean, the White House Task Force on Childhood Obesity came into being for a good reason. We eat too much and we're overweight. So it's not so much that we want to enter into a diet or fast all of the time. when you go through 40 days of Lent like I am, saying, I'm going to stop eating sugar for a couple of months here and see if I can rein in my desire for sweets, which I have a huge sweet tooth, and I eat too much of it. It's not healthy. So doing this for a couple of months gets my head into a place where I realize I don't need to eat that something sweet every day. And I start to appreciate the taste of natural sweet food, fruits, dried fruits, even vegetables can have a sweetness, sweet potatoes, so that you recalibrate. And really what you're aiming for is not to live a life of fasting in order to lose weight. What you're aiming for is to have a balanced diet and approach to eating that isn't necessarily medicalized. We aren't thinking about nutrients throughout the day. What we're thinking about is eating whole foods, healthy foods, not processed foods, foods we make ourselves, meals we make ourselves. Michael Pollan is at the forefront of the food discussion in this country. And
I want to raise something with you, because as I listen to you, I reminisce back to some time ago when someone has said going on a hunger strike against heart disease and diabetes, and what they recommended was not eating or drinking anything but water for 24 hours once a week was linked to a lower risk of these diseases. They found that they asked 200 people if they fasted regularly, and the findings for those who said they fasted were 12% less likely to have both diabetes and heart disease from those who didn't even ever go without a grub. And then think about this. They had a separate group of people that I remember of about 30. None of them who had fasted before were asked to put down their forks for 24 hours. Now just think about this. They put it down for 24 hours, and then the researchers then compared the subjects' post-fasting blood samples to those taken after a day of normal eating. Get a load of the results. The scientists observed that the male participants' levels of human growth hormone, the HGH, were 20 times higher on the days the men fasted than when they followed a regular day of eating. What does that tell you?
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Isn't that astounding?
It is, and that we can absolutely contribute to our bodies and how they respond, and that our decisions play a huge role in our health.
You know what? But go ahead.
But I love the idea of fasting, and I love it in the context of what it does for us in terms of waking us up to what we're putting in our mouths, because we're eating in the car, we're eating in front of the TV, we're eating on the run, and we're eating out too much. And when we fast, we have a moment, we have an opportunity to actually be hungry, and truly hungry. Usually when we eat, we're not truly hungry. I was going to say before, Michael Pollan says, if you're not hungry enough to eat an apple, you're probably not hungry. So what fasting can do is not only the physical, which the results of those studies showed some positive benefits there, but also rein us in to think more clearly about what it means to be hungry and what we really need to eat in the course of a day.
So talk about the other aspects of what you wanted to discuss with us. You talked about fasting. What is the next stage?
What is what, Armstrong?
Okay, you talked about fasting. What was the next stage that you wanted to get into with us this evening on the show?
Well, fasting leads to a feeding of the soul. So we're denying ourselves, we're feeding the soul, because what we do when we say you always take sugar in your coffee and you decide, I'm not going to do that for a while, and just see, well, you miss it. You miss the thing that you're used to eating, you're accustomed to having. And when you miss it, you're thinking more about your body and yourself. Okay. And ideally what you get to is a point where your mind is being taken to higher ground. And in the spiritual realm, it gives you an opportunity to connect more with God and to more substantive aspects of your life. But even without that, a person can be an atheist, obviously, and fast and take a time out from their normal way of eating. And it gives them an opportunity to get back in touch with themselves. And ideally, what it does is helps us to appreciate what healthy food is, because healthy food does not come in a box. It doesn't come in a can, and it doesn't come necessarily out of the freezer section or a drive-through. And that's a really big challenge, I think, for us to get to a place where we can recognize that preparing food ourselves, whole foods, foods that we collect from the perimeter of the grocery store, not the center of the grocery store where it's mostly processed foods, and make those foods and to discover that they taste good, recalibrating our taste buds in a way.
You know, when we come back, I'd like for us to get into, and Maureen Abood is our guest, is sort of the dietary assessment methods and weighed food. How do you balance the dietary assessment against the physical and reach some happy medium? Because listen, it is a struggle staying healthy. It really is. It is not easy. It requires so much work. What you eat, your exercise, and it requires so much discipline. People think that America is overweight because people are lazy. I won't say they're lazy. Physical exercise is a shock to the body if you're not accustomed to it and if you're not consistent with it until the body becomes acclimated towards it. Our guest is Maureen Abood. I'm Armstrong Williams. We're streaming live at www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
So you just told me I didn't need to download it. Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices. 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot. Affordable prices. Hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Maureen Abood is our guest. Rose water and orange blossoms. She is Lebanese. And boy, what a fantastic culinary expert. So how do you balance the dietary process with the physical? Miss Abood.
Well, we have to keep moving. It's really important to keep moving, as you were saying before we took a break. It's critical, and some of us aren't used to moving around that much, that getting the kind of exercise that we need to stay healthy. But when we combine a little physical activity, even a walk around the block to get started, with eating well, eating healthy, and my Mediterranean diet is really fabulous for that, which is why I love to write about it on my blog, because there's so many healthy grains, legumes, vegetarian, but also wonderful meat dishes as well. But it's the combination of the two, and then being aware of how much you really need to eat in a day to be healthy, that's going to get us where we want to be.
You know what? Is it a food addiction when people can't push away from the table? Is that an indication that something else is going on?
I think so. We're seeking comfort inappropriately. Now, comfort food is wonderful. Eating and enjoying your meal is wonderful. Eating too much habitually is when we're really seeking a release, an escape, inappropriately. And it takes us to a place that obviously means weight gain and then health issues, disease. So it's about getting in touch with what's going on in our own lives, reining in our stress. Really, are we getting enough sleep at night is a huge factor in overall health, the right amount of sleep. So if we're having trouble controlling how much we eat, it's a signal that there's something else going on. And it's important to address it. Try to understand it. Get in touch with ourselves.
You know, what about when you see the obesity in children? Is it more hereditary? Is it more of an indictment of the parents?
Certainly it's familial and hereditary, and our parents model for us appropriate eating habits. And when we're kids, we don't know a whole lot more. But there's so much playing on the psyche of a child when you think about the commercial world that plays on them, from the marketing of sweets and treats and fast food, and friends are eating it, and it's very difficult. And for a certain aspect of our population, they don't even necessarily have access to healthy foods, grocery stores locally that provide them an outlet for getting what they need to feed their families. So you have a lot of factors there. And then add in stressful problems in the family life. You know, if you've got a broken home, or you've got poverty, or you've got poor housing, many of the things that can cause psychological distress on a child, then you can see eating disorders and obesity. Even if they may not have the means, you know, poverty and obesity often go together.
You know, I come from an environment of Southern food, but when I go home now, I stay as far away from the mac and cheese, the fried chicken and gravy as possible. Because I've got to tell you, what I've learned, as much as you may like the mac and cheese and the fried chicken, there are so many more healthy foods that you're unaware of that taste better and are far more healthier for you. It's just that some people don't step outside of their scope of food, and sometimes it's less expensive, like you talk about growing your food in a garden. And just, you know, when I'm home, I watch my mother. She eats an apple every day. That is healthy living.
That is healthy living. And you grew up in a very rich and diverse, wonderful food tradition in the South. And you come to a place where you're saying, well, I can't eat the mac and cheese and the fried chicken, but once in a while you can. It's not something that you're basing your diet on a regular basis. And when you get away from eating it regularly, like you're saying, you really do start to appreciate the goodness and the flavors of other types of food, simpler foods that are cooked with less fat, for example. But the Southern traditions have a lot of wonderful, healthy foods, even though some of it is fattier and more difficult on the system.
What do you recommend that people can do to find out the variety of foods? Because, when you think about the soaring prices at the gas tank, food costs are soaring. You go to a grocery store now. What can people do to still make it affordable and enjoyable?
I think it's important to step out. First of all, it's getting over the fear of trying something new and purchasing whole foods like the fruits and vegetables that you may not have had before. And it requires some doing. We have to think about it. Perhaps do some reading or ask someone in the grocery store, how do you prepare this? Ask your butcher if you're picking up a lean meat at the meat counter. How do you like to prepare this? Learn about the foods that are good for you. And I think you can discover that while that food may cost more, the cost of eating cheaper food is higher. The cost in other ways, it's higher because it's bad for you, and ultimately you're at the doctor. You're spending that money in other ways, without a doubt. It's just thinking differently about the value of spending your money on good food.
But while that is fair, I mean, many people live in the hub of these fast food restaurants, and that's what they grow up and live on. I mean, and I know these fast food restaurants make people believe that they are into healthy choices now, but are they really into healthy choices? It's just a different repackaged brand.
Right. Anything that says it's healthy, food that is healthy doesn't have any label on it. It's whole food. It's not food that, healthy choices in a fast food restaurant are not necessarily healthy. But again, if you're going to eat there, it's probably better to have the salad. But growing up on that, it's a tough question, Armstrong. I think it's hard to break out of. I mean, how do you break out? How did you break out of eating some of the foods that you wanted to stop eating that you grew up on?
Go and see my doctor, and he tells me that there's been a change in my anatomy, and if I didn't do certain things, what the consequences would be. It was easy after that.
Fear.
No. It's not even fear. I enjoy my life. I like living. And I don't want to be crippled. I don't want to be a diabetic. I just don't want to do anything that's going to harm my body. And so, even last year, my doctor gave me a warning sign, and, I changed immediately. I gave up candy and sweets, and I lost 8 pounds.
No kidding.
Yes, but you know what? It's what I had to do. And I have to drink more water. I started drinking more water. It's what I have to do. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
That's fantastic.
I'm not paying all this money in my health care to go to my doctor and ignore his diagnosis for me and just continue to live in the way I live. And I must tell you, I feel much better. And you can see it in your skin. It's clear. You feel healthy. You're not fatigued. You're not tired. And I get my 7-8 hours sleep every night. It's easy. I don't want to, listen, you either pay for it now or you pay for it later.
That's right. That is right on. And I love that you mentioned drinking the water because that's just a critical facet of it.
It flushes your system. It flushes all the sugary and all that stuff that you put in there. It flushes it out.
It sure does. And drinking a big glass of water before you eat can help you maintain portion control, and not feel quite so full and eating slower. So you're not, you realize after you've been eating for a little while that you're fuller than you thought. And so your experience really had to do with awareness.
Yeah, awareness. I mean, I just don't think people know and understand the consequences of what they do to their bodies in terms of what they eat, not exercising, what they drink, a lack of drinking.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is also tied to our fast pace.
Well, it's tied to access to going to your doctor. A lot of people are afraid of going to the doctor because they feel they have this numbness, this feeling, and they're afraid of what the doctor may tell them. And then what they do is make the matters worse. And so you know what? My bottom line is a viper. I'd rather destroy a viper when it's a baby, because when it becomes full grown, there's not much I can do with it. You should never allow an illness to grow inside of you.
And when we realize we have the power to avoid that, some of it at least, then we want to do it.
It's just common sense. Listen, what's your web page address for people to find out more about you?
MaureenAbood.com. Rosewater and Orange Blossoms is the name of the blog, and I write a lot about Lebanese food, Mediterranean diet.
Well, listen, you were terrific, and our earlier guest, Jason Mattera, Hollywood Hypocrites, thank you so much for joining us. Good day from the Armstrong Williams Show.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com.
That went very
There you
well.
can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people.
Oh, I can't wait to receive it.
From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Hello, my name is Ron Moulton. I'm running as a Republican for the City Council in the nation's capital, a political arena dominated by the Democratic Party. I'm seeking office in Ward 7, overwhelmed by unemployment and poverty. For the first time in decades, we have an opportunity to be elected, as the people that need the representation the most are now responding to the principles that will uplift them. For more information about my values and to donate, please visit www.ronmoulton.com.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily